Sorry. I tried to be emotional on camera, but, wow, I don't even know where to start with this one. And let me just say, I'm glad that starting with this review, I'm going back to full analysis. I don't have to rush them out anymore, which is nice. I do appreciate that. So, yeah. Welcome back to Animation Station. Welcome to All-Star Superman. I'm your host, a very emotionally wrecked Jack Small. Yeah. As I've stated many times in the past, I am not the biggest fan of Superman. At first, I thought he was a really stupid character, and I just liked Batman a lot more. But through watching these movies, specifically the ones that have Superman in the title and focus mainly on him, I've come to appreciate him more. Like, through this marathon, I've come to appreciate this character more than I could have ever predicted. I mean, I knew these Superman movies were going to be good, but I did not expect them to be this good. This one in particular, which I'm going to say, and this may tick off some people, and I apologize, but this is on par with Mask of the Phantasm. Yeah, I really just said that. It is on par with Mask of the Phantasm, and it is arguably one of the best DC movies ever made. All-Star Superman is an adult, mature, gripping, sad, yet also beautiful and uplifting, well done, just wonderful movie. And I have a lot to say about it, so buckle up. This is going to be a pretty long review, and spoilers ahead. This is your spoiler warning, because this one, I gotta go into spoilers to really articulate all my thoughts on it. So this is your spoiler warning. Let's start with the basic premise. While saving the crew of the first manned mission to the sun, Superman is poisoned by solar radiation. Dying, he decides to fulfill his lifelong dreams, while still saving Earth from various threats. But when Lex Luthor reveals his latest plot to control the world, Superman must use his remaining strength to stop him in one last final confrontation. That's as basic of the premise as we can really get into. And it's a good premise, and from what I've heard, this is one of the most beloved, well-done comics in Superman's entire history. A beloved one that a lot of people consider one of, if not the best Superman comic ever made. Now, I haven't actually read the comic myself yet, but I've seen a few things about it, and I'm just going to start right ahead with the negatives first, because I have very, very little negatives to even go through with this one. So let's get the little minor negatives out of the way. The first thing is that there is one scene that I do know about that's from the original comic that's not in the movie. And that is the scene where Superman saves a young kid from committing suicide. Yeah. I do wish that was put into the movie and could have really driven home, how great Superman is, and it being one of his last actions before his inevitable death. But I mean, at the same time, I kind of feel like that scene may have been a bit problematic, because the Karens, they're gonna overreact about everything, and if they find out anything like that would be in this movie, they'd be like, "Oh, well, Superman's now making fun of suicidal people." Twist the narrative around like they love to do. So I can kind of understand why it's not in the movie, but at the same time, I really wish it was, because that is a very powerful, emotional scene. Heck, arguably one of the most powerful, emotional, just beautiful comic book panels possibly ever made. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing, seriously. I'm going to leave a link in the description box below to a short that talks about it. Not from me, it's from somebody else, but yeah. It was in the original comic, and I do wish it was in the movie. That is a minor nitpick. And then my only actual problem with this movie is that there are one too many ridiculous subplots. let me explain. So, Superman realizes that he's dying. So, the first thing he does is he goes to find Lois Lane. He reveals, well, as Clark Kent, he reveals himself as Superman, takes her back to the Fortress of Solitude, and gives her this serum that he creates, a special birthday present for her, where she can have his superpowers for 24 hours. And it's really a beautiful thing to see. Heck, Superman even made her own suit. So it's like for one day she's Superwoman, and it's a really beautiful, touching part. But then we get to subplot number 1 of the movie, and that is the first thing that Superman encounters during his date with Lois. And that is... what the flying frick were their names? I'm sorry, give me a sec. Samson and Atlas, who ended up provoking a lizard race that apparently lives in the core of the Earth. It's never explained. And they do it to get Lois's attention, and they start flirting with her, and Lois starts to flirt back, which I know that did tick off some people, but really think about it. It's her backhanded way of getting revenge on Superman, who's been lying to her all these years about his true identity. Yes, he had a good reason for doing it, but it was still lying, so I can't really be that mad at Lois here for wanting to get a little bit of revenge against him. So she starts to flirt with these guys, and they turn out to, of course, be scumbags, and they give her this ancient Sphinx thing that they apparently ended up stealing. And it puts her in this weird state where she's neither alive nor dead. She's kind of in the middle. And to free her, Superman has to answer what is considered an unanswerable question. And of course, being Superman, he figures it out, but it does take him a little bit of thinking. And he manages to save Lois, but then the stupid... Please excuse my language here, but the stupid douchebags aren't done yet, as they still think that Superman needs to have a contest with them to claim Lois's affection. Yeah, they are pretty annoying. But Superman takes them down pretty quickly with some arm wrestling that leads to a very funny scene where he literally arm wrestles them so badly that he puts them through the freaking ground. It's funny. It's pretty funny. And thankfully, that's the last time we see them in the movie. After that, they're done. They're gone. Then after that, we have subplot number 2 of the movie, which is these ancient Kryptonian astronauts that come to try and terraform Earth, specifically Metropolis, into a new Krypton. And of course, Superman's not okay with this, and he gets his butt kicked as a result. But then it turns out that while passing through to track him when he first arrived in the space pod and everything, they ended up going through this kryptonite asteroid field, and their cells literally become kryptonite and they start to die. And the wife of this astronaut, the wife character of the astronaut, I'm sorry, I forget his name. Is his name in here? Sorry, give me just a quick second to figure this out. Huh. Let me go to Topcast, see if it might be a little better. Bar-El, that's his name. Bar-El, thank you. Bar-El. Bar-El's wife ends up getting so infected by this kryptonite that's forming in her bloodstream that she loses her eyesight. And this absolutely scares the crap out of Bar-El. And Superman takes them back to the Fortress of Solitude, which they tried to reform into their own headquarters, and they even mocked him viciously for, being one with the humans and everything. But despite everything that they did to him, Superman still does his best to help. Because that's what he does. He helps people. And in his own words, forgiveness. He has the capacity for forgiveness. Like, they can do everything that they want to him, but he'll still find a way to help because he's such a kind, good-natured soul. So, to save their lives, Superman sends Bar-El and his wife into the Phantom Zone, which stops the kryptonite from developing in their bloodstream, and they get to live on in this alternate reality, and they don't have to worry about, dying. So yeah, there's that subplot. Then there's subplot number 3, which is Lex Luthor is about to be executed, literally executed, by the electric chair. That in itself is pretty dark. But then it turns out that he asks for this special concoction right before he ends up getting zapped. And it turned out it was a replication of the super serum that Superman gave to Lois. He gives it to himself, he survives the electric chair shock, and he goes on a killing spree. Well, not a killing spree per se, but, lures out Superman into a final confrontation. And Superman gets his butt kicked yet again. But instead of killing him, Lex suddenly has some kind of clarity because he's given exactly what he wanted. He wanted all powerful. He wanted all this power that Superman has always had. But when he gets all this power, he realizes the responsibility and the heaviness that comes with it. Like, he starts seeing how everything connects and how everything works and how everything has to be. And he finds his humanity. And it's a really beautiful scene that you never expect to find in a movie like this, especially from a character like Lex Luthor, who has done so much terrible things in the past. But it is a very powerful, touching scene. Like, that scene is just amazing. And then he gets sent back to prison. But then there's another subplot that happens right before that. I'm sorry, I'm kind of going a bit out of order. I'm literally trying to remember everything I just watched. Where Superman admits to Lois that he is in fact dying, and he wants to take this little city that he had in his Fortress of Solitude, and he wants to take it to a planet far away where he can, where he can find a way to bring them back and they can recolonize. But Superman himself said it's going to take like 3 weeks to travel there and back. In other words, 2 months. And, well, Lois is obviously not very happy about this, but Superman realizes that's something he has to do, and she learns to come to grips with it, in a way. So he flies off, and then 2 months later he returns, and then that's when the Bar-El subplot came in, and then after that's the Lex Luthor subplot, and then the final subplot, where, well, it finally gets to the actual plot somewhat, but there is one last subplot where Solaris comes into the picture, and he does barely anything. Oh yeah, and there's also another subplot where Clark Kent is in jail with Lex Luthor trying to interview him, but instead he ends up kind of sort of revealing he's Superman and kind of sort of not. It's a bit confusing. But like I said, that's where I'm just going to draw the line right there. It's way too many subplots. Like, you already have the perfectly solid premise of Superman trying to face death, yet also still continue to be that beacon of hope for people, despite his power weakening every single second. But for some reason they shoved a bunch of other crap in here, and it's not terrible by any means, but it just starts getting a bit cluttered. By the time Solaris comes around, I pretty much lose track of everything that's going on. So yeah, one too many subplots is this movie's biggest problem, but it's a very small price to pay, because it's literally my only problem, and even then it's technically a minor one. The rest of this movie is just wonderful. It's fantastic. And let's go ahead and start, because I already brought it up earlier. Let's talk about the voice cast, which I've been trying to do for each one of these movies because they deserve recognition. First up, we have Gene Stenton as Superman. At first it sounds a bit bland, especially if you just watch the trailer without any context, but when you actually watch the movie, his soft-spoken tone makes a lot more sense. Because this is a humble Superman. This is a Superman that's juggling a lot inside his head, like trying not to tell Lois that he's dying until he thinks he's ready, to still being the beacon of hope for Earth, to still defending Metropolis from all these different, atrocities that continue to come at him despite what's going on. Like, he does an amazing job. Trust me. I know he sounds bland in the trailer. I know, but stick with it. He does a great job in the movie, especially one scene in particular, his final journal log that he has in his Fortress of Solitude. where he pretty much puts all his thoughts into this one final giant stone page that he's writing with his heat vision, where he says pretty much, thank you for the life you've given me. I'm proud of the life that I've been given. And now I'm going to go save the Earth, even if it's the last time that I will ever have the ability to do so before I, die. Like, it's haunting. It is a very haunting monologue that he gives while writing that journal entry. And it's something that really is going to stick with you when you see it. Like, seriously, it's phenomenal. It's so good. Like, it's so good. And then, of course, the final scene that he has to portray when, it's literally his final act before he turns into nothing but pure energy and dies. James Denton does an amazing job with this part. Like, it's amazing. I cannot do it justice. You just need to see it for yourself. It's fantastic. You need to see it. Then we have Christina Hendricks as Lois Lane, also known as Superwoman, because, again, she gets to be Superwoman for 24 hours as a birthday present from Superman. And she does a great job here. I still think that the Lois Lane from Superman Doomsday is still my favorite one, but I still think that this is a great Lois Lane. And she does an amazing job with the character, especially when she has to deal with all these extra things and given all this information at, such a quick, brief pace. Like, constantly given information, constantly finding out and discovering things, and constantly just, really getting to know this Superman more than she's ever gotten the ability to do so before. So yeah, phenomenal. I especially really love her final line in the movie where she says that, he's not dead. He's just fixing the sun, and I'll be here whenever he comes back. Like, it's such a tragic but beautiful line where she's pretty much come to terms that, he is gone, but in her way of coping, she still holds on to this hope that he will come back. It's such a beautiful and profound final line to end the movie on, and while it also gets repeated as the music swells and we actually get to see that final shot with Superman inside the sun, pretty much just working as nothing but pure energy at this point. Like, it is profound, it is mature, it is very well done here. Like, she does an amazing job as Lois Lane. Then we have Anthony LaPaglia, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, as Lex Luthor, and he's a great Lex Luthor. I don't think he's better than Clancy Brown, that's still my favorite one, but he does an amazing job as this character, especially again in the scene where he's humbled and finds his humanity after given all the power he's ever wanted and desired. Like, Lex in this movie is fantastic. Like, he goes on this arc, and at the ending, he finds his humanity and decides to pay for his sins, going back to prison willingly, not fighting Superman any longer, and in a way of also trying to honor his memory, giving that scientist that Superman saved at the very beginning of the movie, and the one that Lex tried to kill with one of his weird replicant things. I don't know, it's not really explained what that thing is. He gives them the thing for the serum that he made to get the superpowers in the first place. But he also says it requires the ovum of a human woman. And immediately this scientist is going to go to Lois. And in a way, this is pretty much the creation of Superboy. They always wanted to have children, and this was their one opportunity to do it. And Lex, Superman's greatest enemy, is the one that's giving them this opportunity. Yes, we don't actually see it happen, but the ending more than pretty much implies that that's exactly what's going to happen as the story wraps up. Like, it's a beautiful scene that really shows that Lex developed as a character, and after given everything he's always wanted, he finds his humanity, and he finds out why Superman exists and why he means so much to so many. Even after all the years after all the years that he has made constant plans to try and destroy him and get this ultimate power, when he finally gets his power, he realizes the responsibility it comes with, and in a way learns to respect Superman and finds his own humanity and redemption. Going back to prison perfectly fine and without a single fight, and, well, pretty much accepting that he is also going to die because he doesn't have the serum anymore. He's not going to survive a second shock, but he, in his own way of honoring Superman's memory, he gives this scientist everything he needs to keep Superman's legacy going forward. Like, it's such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful scene. Like, Lex Luthor is so good in this movie. Seriously. Then we have Ed Asner. Yes, the late, great Ed Asner, the same guy that voices Carl in Pixar's Up as Perry White. He's okay. He's not really given a whole lot, sadly. Then we have the Judge, voiced by Abba Tundi. He's okay. And while I hate Atlas as a character, I thought he was extremely annoying. His voice actor is anything but annoying, because he's voiced by Steve Blum. Yes, the guy that voices the main character in Cowboy Bebop. And even though I don't like the character at all, I think Steve Blum, he's Steve Blum. He's a legendary voice actor. Of course he does a fantastic job. He's Steve friggin' Blum. Then we have Nostalgia, voiced by Linda Cardellini. Yes, that Linda Cardellini. Who is Lex's daughter, and also kind of a secondary character. She's not really in the movie that much, so it doesn't really matter. But I do want to mention the one scene she has with Clark Kent, where Lex Luthor gets Clark Kent out of prison by taking him on this riverboat, and he lets his daughter take him out of there. But in a weirdly profound way, even though it's not what actually happens, it looks like Lex is sending Superman across the river Styx to the underworld. I couldn't be the only one that got that image with the rowboat and the dark cave and the water, and just the way it's all set up and written and delivered. Like, it just all gave me Greek mythology vibes, going across the river Styx into the underworld, where your soul will be Hades to do whatever he wants with. Like, it's a very dark scene that also, again, cleverly foreshadows how Superman's going to die. Like, it is extremely profound and very, very clever. But outside of that, the character's just fine. Then there's Kathy Cavadini, who's the voice of Floral Cat Grant. And that's it. She's fine. Not really much to say there. Frances Conroy does an amazing job as Ma Kent, even though she only gets one scene. It's a very touching scene when Superman visits his father's grave one last time before he faces the inevitable end. And of course he doesn't tell his mom that he's dying because she's already going through enough, but instead just says, "I love you." He just gives her one last kiss and hug goodbye, and while he doesn't actually say it's the last goodbye, in a way, you kind of get that feeling and sentiment. And Ma Kent does an amazing job in that scene. Seriously, huge shout out to Francis McCoy. Amazing job. Then Chris Cox as the lead agent's fine. Alexis Denisof as Leo Quintum is really good. He's the doctor that Superman saves at the beginning of the movie, and the one that Lex gives the serum formula to, keep Superman's legacy going. So he doesn't play a huge role in the movie, but he also, at the same time, plays a great deal, despite not given the most screen time. Then we have John DiMaggio back again in his second DC animated universe. Well, actually his third. He was in Superman Doomsday. As Samson and Ultra Sphinx. Again, I think Samson is a really dumb character, and he was just, I hated him and Atlas. They were both annoying, and they both could have just been left out of the movie entirely. But John DiMaggio, being John DiMaggio, still does a great job with the performance. And his short little performance as the Ultra Sphinx is also really good. Like, it's John DiMaggio. I don't need to say more than that. Then Robin Atkins Downs voices Solaris. He's fine. Michael Goff voices Parasites. I didn't realize that was such a huge name in this movie, but yeah, he voices Parasite and he does okay. Matthew Gray Gubler voices Jimmy Olsen. Again, apologies if I'm mispronouncing these names. He's okay. Finola Hughes as Lilo's okay. Kevin Michael Richardson is Kevin Michael Richardson. I don't even need to explain that one. Fred Tatasciore? I don't know how to pronounce that. Voices Kroll. He does a great job, and he's also the voice of one of the other astronauts. And Arnold Vosloo as Bar-El is pretty good, but he doesn't really get a whole lot of screen time, so he can't really leave that much of an impact, but he does have a really nice turnaround where he goes from hating Superman to respecting Superman. So, yeah, do with that what you will. So yeah, that's the whole voice cast. It's pretty good, pretty stacked, I gotta say. But yeah, they all do a pretty great job. So great job to the voice cast. Alright, where writer? I need to talk about this movie's writer. Where is it? Ah, there it is. Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster, and Grant Morrison. Yes, the guy that actually made the comic helps with the writing of this movie. And then Dwayne McDuffie in one of his last little side roles in the crew before he sadly passed away the day before this movie released, and a day after his birthday, tragically enough. Helped translate Morrison's words and comic to the screen into a script. And it is a very good script. Like, the writing here isn't half-efforted. It isn't half-baked. It isn't just thrown out the door like Crisis on Two Earths. No. This writing is adult, mature, sharp, and incredibly well done. Like, the writing here is so good. There are so many great quotes and memorable lines from the movie. I already referenced Lois giving that amazing final line of how, well, he's not dead. He's just he's just fixing the sun, and when he's back, I'll be here. You know, that really profound, beautiful line. Where is it? He's not dead. He's up there fixing the sun, and when he's done, he'll be back, and I'll be here waiting for him. Like, such a profound line. And the whole writing's like that. There's a ton of other quotes I could think of. Heck, let me pull up a few here. Let me try and find one. This one. His conversation with Bar-El is the one I'm going to use as an example. After everything we've done, you still show us kindness. My Earth parents taught me forgiveness. Humanity has a lot to teach us. Perhaps. Kal-El, son of Krypton, I'm proud to call you my kin. Our greatness lives on in you. We don't have much time. There's a way to save us both. Surely you've thought of it. Yes, but it has to be your choice. I'll try to find a way to cure you. But your own time is short. Do what you must. Send us to the Phantom Zone. Like, it is such a... The writing here is so good. The character dialogue is so well written and extremely mature and adult. Like, it's not half-baked. It's not half-efforted. It does an amazing job. I gotta find one more. I'm sorry, I need to find one more quote to really give you guys a feeling of how well this one right here. His final line with Lois when this radiation's starting to literally take him over and turn him into energy with the white lines all around his face. And this is his final interaction with Lois before he flies up to the sun and, well, dies. Oh, your poor face. No one can repair the sun but me, Lois. I'm turning into pure energy and I only have one chance to save the world. That's all you've ever needed. I love you, Lois Lane, until the end of time. Like, oh, it's so profound. so well done. Oh, this I want one more. I got to talk about this interaction right here. This is the interaction where Lex Luthor, after he finds his humanity, tries to redeem himself and keep Superman's legacy alive. And it starts with that one line that started the movie with little screenshots quickly going through Superman's origin. Doom Planet, desperate scientists, last hope, kindly couple, Superman. At first, I wasn't sure if that was Lex delivering that line or if it was just a narrator for some reason. But when it is revealed that's Lex and that line's repeated again, it all finally clicks with you. Like, it's such a great line. We all know the story, Luthor. Why did you ask to see me? If this is an escape attempt, I'd already be free. No, I've already accepted my imminent execution. This is a confession. Forgive me, Doctor, for I have sinned a lot. You killed him, and my deathbed claims that I've seen the error of my ways can't change that. But there is one thing I can do to honor his memory. And that's when he hands him the book with the entire, formulas needed to make the serum, to keep his legacy alive. But again, it needs a female ovum. Of course, he's going to go to Lois. It's not shown, but it's pretty obvious. Like, seriously, the writing in this one's so friggin' good. Like, there's so many great lines all throughout this movie. I really can't do it justice. You just need to go see this movie for yourself. But yeah, the writing's fantastic. The character dialogue's excellent. The voice acting is fantastic. The messages are profound, adult, and mature, but also so beautiful and uplifting, while also being sad. And the animation. I think the last thing I have to really talk about with this movie is the animation. The animation of this movie is really, really good, even though I'm still not used to the weird lip thing they started doing starting with Superman, Batman, Apocalypse. They did this weird thing with the lip animation. It's weird. It's the only thing I don't really like about it. But it's a small little price to pay, and you get used to it pretty quickly. And aside from that, the animation in this movie is fantastic. It's a bit static for most of it because this isn't an action-packed, punch fest like other movies have been, but it doesn't need to be. This one is a profound, moving, beautiful, emotional, uplifting character piece. So it doesn't need to do anything that crazy or taxing. And not to mention, little to no CGI. Yes, thank you. I will always praise when a movie is able to actually be mostly 2D animated and not rely so much on jarring CGI just to get the job done. Unless, the whole movie's CGI, then I'll give it a pass. But if it doesn't fit the art style and it doesn't fit the actual animation, don't use CGI. Unless you're really good at blending it, like in Mask of the Phantasm, okay? Just saying. But yeah, the animation here, fantastic. So, I've babbled on for almost 40 straight minutes about pretty much everything I love about this movie. About the writing, the characters, the story, the amazing character dialogue, the great ending, and its profound messages of, hope and forgiveness. And how even after Superman faces the inevitable, it's still going to be around, and it'll still exist in one way or another. Like, this is one of the most adult and mature animated movies that I've seen in a long time, but it's also safe to watch for kids, because unlike Under the Red Hood, this one isn't a hard PG-13. It's actually a pretty light PG-13. Because it's not it's not gory, it's not relentlessly dark and violent, but instead its PG-13 rating more comes from its themes and the fact that, we're literally watching Superman slowly die, so, yeah. It earns its PG-13 rating, just not in a visual way. It's more of in a conceptual writing, storytelling way. And those are the PG-13s that I'm okay with. there is a few action scenes in here, yes, but they're not the main focus of the story. The main focus of the story is Superman himself and what he does with his life before he faces the inevitable end. And in a way finds more humanity than he's ever realized. Like, I literally cannot do this movie justice. It is so faithful to the source material, and aside from that one amazing scene from the comic that is sadly not here, it is incredibly faithful to said comic, from what I've been able to tell, and just so well done. I can understand why some people don't like it, but me personally, this is a wonderful movie. Probably one of the best first time watches I've had ever since I started this channel. And I'm glad I was able to do the deep dive analysis for this one because this is a movie that not only does a great job representing Superman, it is a movie that perfectly understands what Superman is all about. His themes of hope, his ideology of positivity, and trying to face the new day with a smile no matter what may come your way. To be thankful for everything that life gives you, and to make the best of the one life that you have. Sorry, I know this probably sounds super silly for me to get this dark and this super serious and profound on an animation movie review. I know, but animation is more than just something for kids. It's something that can also be used to tell powerful stories for adults too. And I feel like that this is one of those stories that you're definitely going to appreciate more as an adult rather than a child. Kids can still watch this movie, absolutely, but adults are going to get a lot more out of it, especially if you are a fan of the All-Star Superman comic book this comes from. And considering that this is the source material that James Gunn's working off of for Superman Legacy, yeah, I'd say we're in pretty good hands. I really cannot say anything more about this movie that hasn't already been said. It's wonderful, it's beautiful, but it's also sad, gripping, tragic, but it's profound and it's uplifting at the same time. It truly is a wonderful movie that's made me understand why Superman is so beloved, why he's been so celebrated over the years. Do I still prefer Batman? Yes, I do, but that doesn't change the fact that Superman in his own right is a fantastic character when done correctly. And this is a movie that absolutely does him correctly, and arguably even better than any of the live-action movies have. I loved those first two Christopher Reeve Superman movies when I first watched them, way back in my own DC marathon on Cynical Sand 77, but I have to say, this is probably my favorite Superman film. Like, yes, it may not be action-heavy, yes, it may not be super punchy or frantic, but more because of its profound messages and its adult, mature writing. It is a phenomenal movie, plain and simple. My final verdict for All-Star Superman is going to be my first ever time giving this score to a DC Animated Universe movie, and it earns it. Final verdict for All-Star Superman is going to be a full 10 out of 10. It is a gem of a movie that you absolutely need to go and see. Even if you're not a fan of Superman, I still recommend watching this movie. It is truly incredible. It is gripping and it's sad, but at the same time, it is also beautiful and uplifting. One of the most adult, mature, and high-quality movies that DC has ever done, and at this point ever will do. A truly fantastic movie. I literally have nothing more to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Animation Station if you haven't already. And stay tuned because we have more DC on the way because it's only the 12th. We still have like 6 or 7 more movies to go. So, what is next on the itinerary? Tomorrow you're actually getting 2 reviews, but one of them's going to be more in-depth than the other. Because one of them is actually going to be a collaboration review with my other channel, Cynical Saiyan 77, on the Christopher Nolan trilogy, starting with Batman Begins, a movie trilogy I'm sure a lot of you would love to hear my thoughts about, even though it may tick you off a little bit, just a heads up. And the next DC Animated Universe movie, Green Lantern Emerald Knights. I have nothing more to say. Double DC coming your way tomorrow. Until then, thanks for watching. Highly recommend go seeing this movie. Stay super, and I'll see you next time. Take care.